Long before anyone in Korea thought of making a shiny silver coin, the precious metal was already a huge part of life. It was not something you would use to buy snacks or pay for a ride. It was far more special than that. Silver was a symbol of wealth, power, and even spiritual importance. Kings and queens would have beautiful objects made from it, like crowns, belts, and hairpins. These were not just accessories. They were signs to everyone that the royal family was incredibly important. The gleam of silver in the palace showed the kingdom's prosperity and the ruler's high status, making it a key element in the theater of royalty. Silver was also a very important tool for connecting with other kingdoms. When Korean rulers wanted to send a gift to the Emperor of China, they often sent valuable items made of silver. This was a way of showing respect and maintaining good relationships. It was a diplomatic language understood by all. In trade, merchants didn't use coins, but sometimes used raw silver or silver items to make big deals for things like silk or special medicines from far away. It was a heavy, reliable form of payment for large transactions, long before standardized money was available for international commerce, making it a cornerstone of early global trade. Beyond the worlds of royalty and trade, silver held a deep spiritual meaning for the people of ancient Korea. It was used to create beautiful religious objects for Buddhist temples. Imagine stunning statues of Buddha or intricate containers for sacred relics, all crafted from shining silver. These items were believed to have special power and were used in important ceremonies. The purity of the metal was thought to reflect the purity of the teachings, so its use in these sacred contexts was highly symbolic. The calming, cool color of silver made it the perfect material for objects meant to inspire peace and devotion in worshippers. So, for many centuries, silver was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was in the hands of the rich and powerful, used for grand gestures and sacred duties. But it was not in the pockets of ordinary people. It was a treasure, a raw material, and a symbol. This long history of using silver as a valuable substance, rather than as money, set the stage for its future. The idea of turning this precious metal into small round coins for everyone to use was still a very distant thought, waiting for the right moment in Korea's long and fascinating history to finally emerge. When the Goryeo dynasty ruled Korea, from 918 to 1392, the use of silver took a very interesting and unique turn. The kingdom needed a more organized way to handle its wealth, especially for large payments, and for the government to store value. Instead of making coins, they came up with a brilliant idea, the unbyong. The name literally means silver vase or silver bottle. These were not actual vases you could put flowers in. They were solid ingots of silver, shaped like the Korean peninsula itself. This shape was not just for decoration. It was a proud symbol of the nation's identity, cast in pure, valuable silver. These unbyong were the official currency for the elite. You would not see a farmer in the market using one to buy rice. Instead, they were used by the government, wealthy nobles, and powerful merchants for very large transactions. If the government needed to pay for a major construction project, or if a noble family wanted to buy a large estate, they would use these heavy silver ingots. Each unbyong weighed about 1 gun, which is around 600 grams. This made them incredibly valuable and completely impractical for daily shopping, but perfect for storing and moving large amounts of wealth securely. So why did Goryeo make these strange silver vases instead of normal, round coins like other countries? There were a few important reasons. First, the Goryeo economy was not fully based on cash. Many people still traded goods directly through barter, exchanging rice for cloth, for example. There wasn't a strong need for a widespread coin system among the general population. The government was more focused on controlling large-scale wealth and trade, and the unbyong served this purpose perfectly. It was a system designed for the top, not for the masses, reflecting the social structure of the time. Another key reason was the government's desire to control the silver supply. By creating a unique shape like the unbyong, it was harder for people to make fake ones. Each ingot was stamped with an official seal to prove it was genuine. This helped prevent counterfeiting and ensured that the government had a firm grip on the kingdom's most valuable asset. The Unbyong was more than just money. It was a statement of Goryeo economic control and national pride. A system that worked for its time, but also showed that Korea was not yet ready for a fully monetized, coin-based economy. When the Joseon dynasty took over in 1392, the story of silver in Korea continued, but with some new chapters. The Unbyong from the Goryeo era disappeared, but the idea of using silver ingots did not. Silver remained incredibly important, especially for the government and for international trade. The Joseon government needed a reliable way to collect taxes and manage its finances, and silver was the perfect solution. It was durable, valuable, and easier to store and transport than massive quantities of rice or cloth, which were also used for tax payments. This made silver a central part of the state's economic machinery. The Joseon dynasty created its own official silver ingots. These were different from the Goryeo Unbyong and came in various shapes and sizes, but they all served the same purpose, to act as a stable form of high-value currency. There were two main types of silver ingots that became very important. One was called Nayun, which means internal silver. This was high-quality silver, used by the royal court and the central government for official business. It was pure, carefully regulated, and represented the wealth and stability of the kingdom's core institutions. The other major type was called Weiyun, which means external silver. This was the silver used in trade with other countries, particularly with China and Japan. Weiyun was crucial for Korea's foreign relations and its economy. Korean merchants would take ginseng, pottery, and other goods to China and Japan and bring back silver. This silver was not always in the form of official Korean ingots. It could be Chinese or Japanese silver. The government tried to regulate this trade, as a steady flow of silver into the country was seen as a sign of a healthy economy and a strong nation. Even with these sophisticated systems for using silver ingots, the Joseon dynasty went for centuries without creating a silver coin for everyday use. The economy was still heavily reliant on barter, and for smaller transactions, people used bronze coins, called Gojong, or simple grain and cloth. Silver was reserved for the big stuff, paying taxes to the king, buying land, or funding major trade expeditions. It was the money of the powerful, a tool for the state, but not yet the money of the people. For hundreds of years during the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties, a big question hangs in the air. If silver was so valuable, why didn't they make coins out of it? The answer is complex, involving fear, practicality, and the unique nature of Korea's economy. One of the biggest fears was counterfeiting. Making fake bronze coins was already a problem, but making fake silver coins would be a disaster. Silver was so much more valuable, and the temptation to create illegal copies would be immense. The government worried that a flood of fake silver coins could destroy people's trust in money and wreck the entire economy, so it seemed safer to avoid them altogether. Another major reason was that Korea's silver was often needed for international purposes. China, a massive and powerful neighbor, had a huge demand for silver. For much of its history, China used silver to power its economy and even required tribute payments in silver. Korean leaders knew that if they turned all their silver into domestic coins, it would be much harder to gather the large amounts needed for diplomacy and trade with China. It was more practical to keep silver in the form of large, easy-to-weigh ingots that could be sent abroad or stored as national treasure, rather than scattered among the population as small coins. The focus of the domestic economy also played a huge role. For most of Korean history, the economy was not fully commercialized. The government's primary concern was agriculture. The most important commodities were rice and cloth, which were used as a form of money themselves, especially in rural areas. For smaller cash transactions, the government promoted the use of bronze coins, known as Sangpyeong-tongbo. These bronze coins were good enough for buying everyday items in the marketplace. There was no widespread demand from the common people for a high-value silver coin, as their daily lives ran on barter and bronze. Finally, the government's philosophy on money was very conservative. Joseon officials were often wary of commerce and believed that agriculture was the true foundation of a healthy society. They were hesitant to introduce a new, powerful form of money like silver coins that could encourage too much commercial activity and potentially disrupt the social order. They preferred to keep silver under tight central control, using it for state purposes only. This combination of fearing counterfeits, needing silver for foreign affairs, and having an economy built on grain and bronze meant that Korea would wait a very, very long time before its first silver coin was finally minted. By the late 19th century, the world was changing rapidly, and Korea, which had long been known as the Hermit Kingdom, could no longer remain isolated. Powerful Western countries like the United States, France and Germany were sailing their advanced warships across the globe, looking for new markets and new trade opportunities. They arrived at Korea's shores and demanded that the country open its ports for trade. This was a huge shock to the Joseon dynasty, which had intentionally limited its contact with the outside world for centuries. These foreign powers brought with them not just goods, but new ideas about economics, technology, and government. One of the most powerful influences came from neighboring Japan. After being forced open by the United States, Japan had undergone a rapid and stunning transformation known as the Meiji Restoration. It modernized its military, its government, and crucially, its economy. Japan adopted a Western-style monetary system with gold and silver coins, and it quickly became a regional power. Seeing Japan's success, many Korean officials, including King Gojong, realized that Korea had to modernize as well if it wanted to survive and remain independent. The old ways of using cloth and bronze coins were not enough to compete on the world stage. The pressure to create a modern currency became immense. Western traders and diplomats were frustrated by Korea's outdated economic system. They wanted a reliable standardized currency that they could use for trade, and silver coins were the international standard at the time. The existing system of bronze coins, which had a fluctuating value, and cumbersome barter with rice and cloth, was seen as inefficient and backward. To be accepted as an equal partner in the new global economy, Korea needed to speak the language of modern finance, and that language was spoken in gold and silver coins. King Gojong and his reform-minded officials understood this urgent need. They saw that a modern currency was not just an economic tool, it was a powerful symbol of national sovereignty and progress. Creating Korea's own silver coins would be a bold declaration that the country was ready to step into the modern era, manage its own economy, and stand strong against foreign pressures. This desire to modernize and protect the nation's independence was the final push needed to overcome centuries of hesitation. The long wait for a Korean silver coin was finally coming to an end, driven by a powerful wave of global change. In 1892, after centuries of using silver only as ingots, Korea finally minted its very first modern, machine-struck silver coin. This was a monumental moment in the nation's history. Under the direction of King Gojong, the government established a modern mint, the Jeonwanguk, equipped with machinery imported from Germany. The goal was to create a full series of modern coins, and the centerpiece of this new system was the magnificent 5-yang silver coin. This coin was not just money. It was a bold statement of Korea's ambition to become a modern nation, a piece of silver that carried the hopes of a kingdom on the brink of a new era. The design of the 5-yang coin was rich with symbolism. On the front, it featured a pair of majestic dragons surrounded by intricate patterns, with a plum blossom crest at the center, the symbol of the Joseon royal family. The dragons represented the authority and power of the king. On the back, the coin's value, 5-yang, was written in English, alongside the Korean inscription, Daejoseon, meaning Great Joseon, and the year of minting. The inclusion of English text was a clear signal that this coin was intended for international use, and that Korea was ready to engage with the wider world. It was honestly a beautiful fusion of traditional Korean symbols and modern international standards. Technically, the 5-yang coin was an impressive piece of work. It was minted from 82.2% pure silver and weighed 26.95 grams, with a diameter of 38.6 millimeters. This made it a large, heavy, and substantial coin, similar in size and feel to other major international silver coins of the time, like the American Morgan dollar or the Japanese silver yen. The government produced a limited number of these coins, along with smaller denominations like the 1 young silver coin and a quarter young silver coin. This was the first time in Korean history that a systematic modern coinage system based on a silver standard had been attempted. The creation of the 5 yang coin was a huge change. For the first time, Korea had a high-value coin that could theoretically be used by more than just the government or the ultra-wealthy. It represented a shift from an economy based on barter and raw materials to one based on standardized, government-guaranteed currency. Although these coins were not widely circulated among the general public due to political instability and economic challenges, their existence was profoundly important. They were the physical proof that Korea had finally embraced the modern concept of money, ending the long era of the silver ingot and beginning the short, brilliant age of the Korean silver coin. Just a few years after the first silver coins were made, Korea went through another massive political change. In 1897, King Gojong declared the founding of the Korean Empire, and he became Emperor Gwangmu. This was a powerful move to assert Korea's independence and equality with its neighbors, China and Japan, which were both led by emperors. With a new empire came the need for a new currency that reflected its elevated status. The coins from the Joseon era, with Great Joseon written on them, were now outdated. A new series of coins was needed to represent the Daehan Jaeguk, the Korean Empire. This led to the introduction of a new monetary system in the early 1900s, based on a new unit called the won, which was equal to 5 yang from the old system. Under this new system, a new generation of silver coins was minted. These included the half won, which was a beautiful silver coin. The design of these new coins was different from the 1892 series. The iconic dragons were replaced with a new design featuring a powerful dragon on one side and the plum blossom crest, value, and the name of the empire, Daehan, on the other. These coins were also modern and well-made, continuing the push for a sophisticated national currency. The new silver coins of the Korean Empire were part of a broader plan for economic reform. The government, under Emperor Gwangmu, was trying to modernize the country's finances, banking system, and infrastructure. These coins were meant to be the stable foundation of that new economy. However, this era of ambitious reform and national pride was happening under the shadow of growing foreign influence, especially from Japan. The Korean Empire was trying to strengthen itself, but powerful outside forces were working to weaken its sovereignty. The beautiful new silver coins were a symbol of Korea's hopes, but also a reminder of the race against time the empire was facing. Unfortunately, this era of Korean minted silver coins was destined to be very short. The political situation was becoming increasingly unstable. Japan's influence over Korea was growing stronger by the day, following its victories in wars against China and Russia. Japan sought to control Korea's economy as a stepping stone to controlling the country itself. The Korean Empire's efforts to build a strong, independent monetary system with its own silver coins were in direct conflict with Japan's imperial ambitions. The coins of the Korean Empire therefore represent the final fleeting moments of Korea's monetary independence before it was extinguished. The dream of a modern, independent Korean currency came to a harsh end in 1905, when Japan made Korea a protectorate, effectively taking control of its foreign policy and finances. This was the beginning of the end for Korean sovereignty. One of Japan's first moves was to seize control of Korea's monetary system. The beautiful silver coins of the Korean Empire, symbols of national pride, were systematically withdrawn from circulation. Japan forced Korea to adopt a new currency that was managed by the Japanese-controlled Bank of Korea. This new money was tied directly to the Japanese yen, erasing Korea's economic independence. The Japanese colonial government then began issuing its own coins and banknotes for use in Korea. These new coins looked completely different. The Korean imperial symbols, like the plum blossom crest and the proud dragons, were gone. They were replaced with designs and symbols chosen by the Japanese authorities. The currency was still called the won, but it was no longer a symbol of Korean identity. It was a tool of colonial control. The silver coins that had represented Korea's step into the modern world were now just historical artifacts, their circulation completely halted by the new colonial power. During the long and difficult period of Japanese occupation, which lasted from 1910 to 1945, the story of Korean silver took a dark turn. Precious metals, including silver, were systematically extracted from Korea and sent to Japan to support its own economy and war efforts. Private ownership of silver was restricted, and any remaining old Korean silver coins were hoarded, hidden, or melted down. The very metal that had once been a symbol of Korean royalty and then of modern ambition was now being stripped from the country. The era of the Korean silver coin was not just over. Its physical legacy was being actively erased. After Korea finally regained its independence in 1945, the country faced the enormous task of rebuilding from scratch. Decades of colonial rule had left the economy in ruins. In the turbulent years that followed, establishing a new, stable national currency was a top priority. The new Republic of Korea issued new banknotes and coins, but silver was no longer considered for circulation. The world's monetary systems had moved on from silver and gold standards, and silver was now too valuable and its price too unstable to be used for everyday money. The brief, shining moment of the Korean silver coin had officially passed into history. In South Korea today, if you look in your wallet or pocket, you will find coins made of copper, zinc, and nickel. You will not find any silver coins. The days of using precious metals for everyday money are long gone. Not just in Korea, but around the world. Modern economies rely on fiat currency, which is money that has value because the government says it does, not because it is made of a valuable material. Silver is now treated as a commodity, a precious metal to be traded, used in industry, or held as an investment. Its role as a circulating coin has completely vanished from daily life. However, the story of the Korean silver coin is not entirely over. The Bank of Korea, the country's central bank, continues to mint beautiful silver coins, but they serve a very different purpose. These are not for buying groceries. They are commemorative coins. They are created to celebrate important national events, honor historical figures, or showcase Korean culture and nature. For example, the bank has issued stunning silver coins for events like the Olympic Games held in Seoul, the FIFA World Cup, and to celebrate UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Korea. These coins are works of art, minted for collectors and history enthusiasts. These modern commemorative silver coins are a wonderful link to the past. They carry on the tradition of using silver to mark moments of national significance, just as it was used in the royal courts of the Silla and Joseon dynasties. While the 1892 5-yang coin was a tool for building a modern economy, today's silver coins are tools for preserving national memory. They are highly sought after by collectors both in Korea and internationally, and they help share Korea's rich history and vibrant culture with the world. Each coin tells a story, captured forever in the gleam of pure silver. In conclusion, the journey of silver in Korea is a long and fascinating one, full of twists and turns. For over 1,000 years, it was a precious treasure, a royal symbol, and the money of the elite in the form of ingots. It was not until 1892, under the pressures of a changing world, that Korea finally produced its first true silver coin, the 5-yang. This marked a pivotal moment, a declaration of modernity that was brilliant but tragically brief. Today, while silver no longer jingles in our pockets, its spirit lives on in the beautiful commemorative coins that remind us of our history, our achievements, and the enduring legacy of this precious metal.